Hello everyone, today is November 30th, 2017, and technically not into next month yet, but I don't see myself buying any more than I did today after I went out, and I want to leave as much space as possible for next month, because I don't know what's going to happen. The holidays are coming up. Might not buy a whole lot for myself up until, that last week after Christmas, when I know what's going on with everything. So, without further ado, let's get into the stuff that I did get for myself this month. I have a little good... there's a couple of, actually, I was going to say that I have a mix of stuff, but I noticed there's a bunch of systems that I didn't get anything for. As usual, I don't get a lot of cartridge stuff anymore. I do have one cartridge game to talk about, but it's a very special instance. Dreamcast, I look at my Dreamcast all the time because it's right here next to my computer on the wall. I never get Dreamcast stuff very much anymore. Only one GameCube game in here, only 2 Wii games, kind of slow down on that a lot, but cartridge games in general, I don't buy any Game Boy stuff even. A lot of stuff which is really cheap, but there's a good mix of what I do have. PS3, we'll see. There's a big, huge stack of PS3 right here that I'll be getting to. But the first thing, as always, Switch games. Switch games are coming in now. I have right here Ittle Dew 2 Plus from Nicalis. As always, Nicalis does an amazing job with all their stuff. Yet again, this was kind of, it wasn't stuffed to the gills. It wasn't, like, bursting at the seams like Tiny Barbarian was when it came. But you can see they always put their manual in there. Their manuals are really, really nice. Unfortunately, I have not even started this game yet. I'm really disappointed. I barely have started Axiom Verge, which I'm really disappointed in myself for getting, because when I was pre-ordering this game, I was pre-ordering a lot of stuff at the time, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to shell out that $10. Excuse me, I don't know that much about this game. I know people really like it, but some people really don't like it. I'm going to stick with the standard version, and I'm really upset that I went with the standard version on this one, because the Multiverse Edition on the Switch especially, because it's a Switch game, so worth it now that I've seen it in person and see all the extra stuff. You get a big map. You don't get a manual, but the map itself has 2 sides to it. It kind of has a manual at the bottom that tells you all the stuff in it. You get the 2 Blu-rays. I think they're on Blu-rays. Or rather, it's a documentary Blu-ray and a soundtrack CD. And then the big box is really, really nice looking. So much stuff, and it's not obnoxious either. It's big. It's a big box, but it's about, this big. Really, really upset with myself that I didn't shell out. It would have been like an extra $8, and I was like so mad when I saw it in person. I was like, why didn't you buy that one? Would it have really made that big of a difference? But anyway, moving on. I'm gonna start with like the smaller stacks first. I have one 3DS and one regular DS game this month. The 3DS game, this is one of those absolute, like, I was so curious about it, and it's supposed to, I looked it up before I bought it. I got it real cheap. It was like $7, I think. This is called Gabrielle's Ghostly Groove 3D, and it's sort of like a rhythm action game. It's also very goth, which is kind of cool, but like that cutesy goth thing. And it looks like a really, creepy game for me to own, so I'm not 100% proud of having this, but it was really cheap, and it was really interesting. I've never seen it before. And it had good reviews for a game that is right now going for $7 on the 3DS. So I grabbed that. That's really cool. This game I ordered specifically because I was like, man, you know what? I really want to grab one of these games, either the first or the second one. Space Invaders Xtreme. This is Space Invaders Xtreme 2. This game is fucking bonkers, man. If you've never played this game, take Space Invaders and then combine it with a rhythm game, with a crazy over-the-top, like the Luminous, or the, trying to think of the best, like, analogy for it, with, like, that is a rhythm game. It's also really fast-paced. It's got, like, a bunch of, like, techno, like, assaulting the senses, sort of, like, really, Child of Eden, I think. That's the one I'm thinking of. Really, really cool game that really, like, finally, when you see Space Invaders, I really like the N64 PS1 Space Invaders that Activision did. But other than that, people make too big of a deal out of Space Invaders at this point without acknowledging the ones that have actually reinvented it. And Space Invaders Xtreme 2, definitely go find this if you're at all interested in shoot-em-ups and Space Invaders and stuff like that, because this is a really, really good version of Space Invaders, a really good take on it. I have one, like I said, I only have one like real retro game. although I do have another retro thing to talk about. But I did get another repro from my friend Greg at Guerrilla Games. I'll have the link in the description for this so that you can go to his Etsy page and check out all the stuff. But he's been doing a lot of Genesis games recently. And Genesis, especially for the repro market, ones that we didn't get over here, like this one, have a lot of great shoot-'em-ups. And I actually was asking him, I was like, man, you have like all these shoot-'em-ups, and I don't know which one I want to get. What can you recommend me that's really interesting, like kind of out there, and isn't crazy hard? Because there's another game that's actually very similar to this. It's kind of walking around like a Pocky and Rocky style, which is what this is. And I was like, how's Undead Line looks really cool. I'd seen that game before. And he was like, don't get Undead Line if you don't want the game to be too hard, because that game is brutal. And Twinkle Tail, I've tried it a couple times so far, just to, test out the cartridge, see what it was like. Still really hard, because I'm not really used to the whole, the Pocky and Rocky style. But a very, another one, it's very cutesy and everything. And something that, you might look at it, you look at, there's a little anime girl on the cover, there's rainbows and stuff, and you might look at it and be like, man, that does not look like my kind of game. But it's a shoot 'em up, it's a Pocky and Rocky style shoot 'em up, and Pocky and Rocky probably had the same problem, where it's like a girl and a raccoon on the cover, what is this game about, what's in this for me, But definitely, check out all the games that Greg has over at Guerrilla Games that he's doing. I got this, because the Genesis games that he's been doing a lot of recently are also cheaper than NES games to make, for the most part, because the donor cartridges are a lot cheaper. So definitely, I definitely urge you to check that out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save all the PlayStation stuff for the end, because there's a lot of that. So I'm going to put that aside here and just do the last couple things that are smaller stacks. One thing, I got a new toy recently. If you've seen me doing any of my streams, I've been using this one. This is the controller I've been using. I have this problem where anytime I see the controllers, like the consoles or the controllers, the Japanese ones that I really, really like the orange fucking Pikachu one that came with the bright orange Pikachu's console, I look it up, and I'm like, man, I could get this controller for like $30, 35 tops. And that's what I did. This is actually in a fucking pristine condition. Not like my Daihatsu one, which I got for a little bit cheaper because it was a little scratched up on the inside of the handles. This thing is pristine. The stick is probably the tightest stick I own, maybe. And I've been using it. I gotta not buy more controllers because I have way too many, more than I'll ever need at any given time. But the only other two controllers I really see myself right now wanting to get would be the Hori Mini Pad. I still really want one of those, but they're super expensive. I just want one, whatever color, I don't care. And the Retro Fighters controller that I funded the Kickstarter for and is going really, really well, except that it's taking a really long time because of all the things that they've done, and partly because so much money got put into it that they were really overwhelmed. But fucking RGT85 literally just yesterday posted a video because they sent him an advanced version of it. And I see this video and I'm like, oh my god, I want my fucking controller, man. I want my controller. And they said that they were probably shooting for like February for the delivery, and I'm like, I want it now. I want to try this controller. It looks great. It looks so good. Yes, I admit it. It looks good. Tell me. I want it now. Anyway, so yeah, this is my really cool controller that I'll probably be using up until I get the Retro Fighters controller. So yeah, that's that. That's my new N64 toy. I have two Wii games here. This is Need for Speed. I've not really played Need for Speed games. I've tried a couple. I tried to do Hot Pursuit 2. Couldn't really get into it. I have a couple other ones like the Most Wanted on the Wii U and stuff. But Need for Speed Nitro is a game that is really heavy on the arcade style because it's made from the ground up for the Wii. And I was like, you know what, that might be one that I'd really like because it's a very Nintendo-y racing game. So I was really lucky to find this for like $5. Said, hell yeah, give it to me. This is the Need for Speed game that I might like. So that's cool. Need for Speed Nitro. And the other thing about Wii games, this is a perfect example of it that I can talk about. There are a lot of Wii staples that I don't actually have. I grabbed Super Paper Mario, and I had this philosophy on that for a while, but I grabbed that recently because I was like, that doesn't really necessarily fit as much, and it's another game that I feel like I need to have. But games like Mario games, Mario Kart Wii, Wii Sports, I have Wii Sports Resort, so I don't even really need Wii Sports. A couple other ones like Mario Super Sluggers that I'd really like to get. The thing about the Wii is, because it was such a big fad of a system, if there are staples, I'm going to find those, I feel, eventually people just want to get rid of them. They're going to say, I don't want this Wii anymore. Here, take all these games. And through all the shovelware that might be in there with them, because people don't know what games they're buying, they look at Mario, they buy it, and eventually you can get your hands on it. So this is kind of the exact example. Like, I am going to find these games even at thrift stores and Wii Sports Resort, which doesn't go for a ton of money or anything like that, but I would not buy it for more than $6, and that's less than what I paid for with this. I actually don't have a Motion Plus attachment yet, but those are also getting really cheap too. I have Fling Smash too, but I haven't actually played it because Fling Smash and Red Steel 2. Two games that you need the Motion Plus attachment for, and I have them, and I have not actually used them. Another thrift store find, I actually made this the other day, is Zoocube. A sort of like, man, I never see this game, it's fucking weird, man. You know what, grab it, give it to me, I want this game. And, it goes for like $10 at this point. Really, really interesting thing about Zoocube, and part of the reason that I was like, man, I have to have this. I have a very distinct memory of this game, Zoocube, being mentioned to me. When I went to Kmart, I had saved all my money when I was like, I think 7 or 8 years old. I saved all my money, which was not very much money coming in when you're 7 or 8, but I wanted a Gamecube because I still, I knew I loved Nintendo. I saved my money up for a Gamecube, which was $150. Went to Kmart, and my dad actually did that thing to me that Republican conservative parents still do all the time, which is don't tell you what sales tax is. And so when you go to the store, they want you to get mad that, like, oh, you gotta know what sales tax is. I'm like, I'm fucking 7, dude. So the sales tax thing to me, I kind of just accepted it. I was like, hey, thanks, Dad, for spotting me the sales tax, taking me to the store and knowing that sales tax is a thing. But I was a little bit miffed that there was no pack-in game like game systems had previously up to that point. And so now I had to, have him buy me a game too, which I kind of appreciated that. And I loved Star Fox, and I wanted Star Fox Adventures. Star Fox Adventures was $50. My dad, understandably, I guess, didn't really want to buy me the $50 game when there were other games that I just needed to get a game. And I distinctly remember the store clerk, who was this old lady, saying, well, Zoocube is $20. And I was like, what is that? What the fuck is Zoocube, man? So I did not buy Zoocube. I didn't get Zoocube that day. I don't even remember what I got. I think we left the store without me getting a game, and I went and rented, like, Wind Waker. But I see Zoocube so infrequently that whenever it does pop up, I always think of the store clerk, who is this old lady, and and for the longest time, I remembered Zoocube as if, like, when I was a kid, still being like, did that old lady recommend Zoocube because she liked Zoocube or something, because it was good? That's not necessarily the reason. Obviously, that lady didn't know what she was talking about. She just saw a $20 game and was like, you can buy this game. It has a fucking monkey on it. But it's always stuck in my memory, that experience of going to Kmart. Fucking Kmart. Kmart sucks. And having the store clerk be like, Zoocube's $20. So now I have Zoocube, and that will forever be actually my memory of Zoocube, and nothing could ever defeat that. I have 2 Wii U games. One of them was on my list, and one of them was not on my list at all. But as I get nearer to getting all the things checked off of my Wii U list, I still need, like, Angry Birds Trilogy and Terraria. Those are kind of the 2 big ones. But I did get Tumblestone, which is right now is super cheap on Amazon, or it should still be. The reason I didn't really want to grab it when it came out is because it was like a $25, $30, like, basically a collapse style game, and I was like, it's cool looking and everything, but, it looks like shovelware, and it's not really shovelware, but it isn't. The other game, however, which is 100% shovelware, is Funky Barn. But Funky Barn is getting up there in price because it's a fucking shovelware Wii U game that nobody bought, even when it was new and the only thing that you could buy. But I found Funky Barn, which I never really expected to at this point, and it was like $16, which is about half of what it goes for. So I was like, fuck it, give me Funky Barn. I'll probably hate it and sell it later because I didn't even have it on my list. But I got Funky Barn. Cool. Whatever. Wii U is... I don't have that much stuff left to buy on Wii U, but this was one of them. And if you're interested in it, it's super cheap right now. Just like Rumbo was last month. By the same publisher, Nighthawk. I don't know what's up with them. I'm going to grab the 360 is all that's really left. And then we're going into PlayStation territory, which is the majority of the stuff that I got this month. But here, look at these. Look at these while I grab a sip of coffee. Alright. And so, these two were actually, last time GameStop did their buy two get one, which was right before Black Friday. You could get it for when you're the Epic Pro member. The week before Black Friday, which is really good, because you get to go in there and not have to fight through a bunch of people and still get the same deal. Awesome, right? So Soul Calibur 4 is a game I actively wanted, because I love Soul Calibur. If it comes to fighting games, Soul Calibur is always my thing. I have not really shown much interest in 5, because I never hear it being talked about. But 4 has fucking Yoda in it. On 360 it has Darth Vader on PS3, which I like a little bit more. I'd rather play that one. But it's just one character, no big deal, whatever. So, Soul Calibur 4, and I also, that same day, got Resident Evil 6. I finally, Resident Evil 6, I fucking hate Resident Evil 6. I never liked it. It was the last time that I really got excited for a game up until Super Mario Odyssey. And this is a game that basically told me not to love, ever, or get excited for games to come out, because I was so disappointed. I paid $60 for it when it came out. And most importantly, it always has a really bad taste in my mouth over Resident Evil 6, because this is the game that was in my PS3 the day my original PS3 died. The only console I've ever had, I tell this to customers all the time, when they try to sell it or ask about the backwards compatible ones, the only system in my life that has ever, without reason, just up and died was my original fat PS3. And I loved my PS3 at the time, and it was most of what I was playing, because I was past the Wii at that point. But I didn't have a lot of my own money. I was still working at Market Basket, and PS3 was the only thing I was really doing. So I immediately tried to get my hands on another PS3. It was really cool. Resident Evil 6, I think, was still in the PS3. I don't know if I ever got it out. But even if I did, I sold it to kind of fund getting the next PS3, because I fucking hated it. Look online for anybody's opinion on Resident Evil 6, and you'll know why. But I knew I'd have to get it again, and I did. I did not want to pay for it explicitly. I always said, if it's the last thing I need for a buy two, get one free deal, I'm going to get it, and that's exactly where I got this. So, that's Resident Evil 6. Fuck Resident Evil 6. I'll play it again eventually and see if I can, after Revelation, see if I can forgive it a little bit. Next up is Halo Wars, another game that seems to have dropped in price recently, and this is the only reason that I got it, is because I just saw it today, and I would have paid like $4 for it, I think, today, as opposed to 10, which is usually what it was going for. But I have a thing, I'm a console gamer, but I'm very much of the opinion that RTS is one genre that doesn't work on consoles. I tried to play, Battle for Middle-earth 2 on 360 a couple years ago, and one of the last games I actually sold, because that game still goes for a decent amount of money. But I heard so much about, I was really skeptical, and I heard so much about how good it was for an RTS on console. And I was still like, nah, I can't. I don't like this. I don't like the way this works. It's all complicated. My hand's getting all twisted. Not a fan. So, I love Halo. This is not going to be the game that I get really excited for with Halo, but I love Halo. I want to try it. And if I just don't like it, I'll just be like, whatever. I didn't pay that much for it. I didn't pay $10 for it. I paid $4. So, Halo Wars. You might love Halo Wars, too. And I know a lot of people like Halo Wars. That's why they made a sequel. But me, RTS is on consoles. I already struggle with that enough. But, yeah, I would not pay that much for an RTS on a console. Save for StarCraft 64, which, of course, I have to play eventually. And it's supposed to be good. I have my thoughts about that. We'll get there. Another one, thrift store pickup, Vin Diesel Wheelman is another game that I was like, you know what, if I find that at a thrift store, that's definitely a game I'm going to pick up, no question. The thing about this looks like garbage, absolute shovelware trash. Really interesting, and some people don't like this, it doesn't have the best review scores, but there are some people who really do like it. And that's interesting because the thing about this is made by Vin Diesel's game studio. Yes, Vin Diesel, the actor, who also used to make breakdance videos and work selling toys for toy companies at toy conventions like he did for Street Sharks. If you haven't seen that, look it up. Vin Diesel also founded his own game studio called Trigon Studios. And really, they've only made 3 games in their history that were like their games. The 2 Riddick games, which are both supposed to be great. I couldn't really get into the first one as of yet, but I definitely want to try it again. It was interesting for sure. And this game, and some people don't like this game, but some people do like this game, and it's really, really impressive to me that all 3 of those games are based on Vin Diesel, whether a real movie or just his character or just him as a person. Basically, this is him starring in a game as a virtual actor. And there's this game, and they all have their fans. And it's the only 3 games, and they're all based on Vin Diesel, and they all have people who really like them. So, really, really fucking interesting thing to me. And last for 360, I played the first one of these a while ago when someone lent it to me on PS3 when I was still, didn't have a lot of PS3 games. But these are the Battlefield Bad Company games. And even though they are squad-based shooter games, which I'm not usually a fan of, compared to, run in and kill everything, the characters in this are really good. I remember from the first one. So these are both really, really good games from what I've heard. Played this one, haven't played this one. Really cool stuff. So I grabbed these, as part of another deal. Just picked them up for really cheap. Now, so all we have left are some PlayStation things. So let's start from the bottom with the 4 PS1 games I picked up. 3 of these, again, were thrift store things. This one was not. So let's start with this one. This is called Felony 1179. And when I saw this immediately, I didn't know anything about the game before I even put it in. I was like, that looks like Runabout, which is a game series that people don't really seem to know, but they've got a couple games. It's called Runabout. It's sort of like a Crazy Taxi, Burnout style, ridiculous driving game. Very arcadey, you just smash through everything. Turns out that this is actually the first Runabout game that they changed the title of, so it doesn't look like it's even related to it, even though it is. This is the original Runabout game. What really blew me away, though, and I went, oh my fucking god, I have to get this now. I love Runabout. I loved it already. I put this game in to just see what it was about, and there is an absolute ridiculous turn in the opening cinematic, because it starts out talking about some ancient, treasure bullshit, like it's going to be an Indiana Jones game, and it's like people were dispatched to find this artifact and return it to Italy, whatever. And I'm like, what's going on here? This isn't an action, Tomb Raider game. This is supposed to be a driving game, right? And this is before I even realized it was a Runabout game. And then all of a sudden, it's just the fucking big yellow and black pickup truck barreling towards it like it's transporting. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a really weird turn. Why'd you do that way? That's so misleading, because it's not in anything on the front or back. It's not anything like that. You'd have to read the manual to even know that was the storyline. That was the backstory. And it was like, I was like, what's going on here? No, fucking out of nowhere, just was like that. Anyways, a couple more PS1 games. Runabout. If you haven't ever played a Runabout game, check it out on YouTube. Look them up real quick, because they are crazy. Actually, they look like Simpsons Hit and Run. It's more like Simpsons Hit and Run because there's not stuff to do outside the car. Hit and Run always gets compared to Grand Theft Auto. It's actually more like Runabout. There's your idea. This is the other game related to 3DO's game show versions of their Battle Tanks games. So Battle Tanks, I love Battle Tanks on the N64, both games. First one was exclusive, then there was Global Assault, which is on PS1 as well. They're both great. And then they really totally flip-flopped the whole series and then made it into, instead of a post-apocalyptic crazy show, like with a really dark storyline and everything, they made it into a game show, which can have its benefits. People didn't really seem to take to it and everything, but they did follow it up with another game called WarJetz, or what it would be called, Wednesday Night WarJetz. So really, really goofy, like, dogfighting plane thing. Not supposed to be very good. Probably why they didn't make any more of these after that. But it was like $2. I like 3DO. I like seeing all the crazy ideas they came up with, and I have all the games in the Battle Tanks spin-offs and everything. Oh, also one more thing about this. I saw this and I was like, that's not gonna work. You know what? That might work, because the top part of this label has been sanded off completely, but that doesn't mean it's going to mess up any of the data, because it hasn't gone through the middle. Works fine. And it's the right game. Whatever, it's weird. Next game, NFL Xtreme, the first one. Basically 989. I think this is right around... Yeah, actually the year after Blitz came out, 989 Studios was making the NFL Game Day games. They always came out. I think they were pretty cheap, too. I think they were the budget titles, same as Sega did with their games to compete with EA. But they basically, they made the Game Day games to compete with Madden, and then they also made Xtreme to compete with Blitz. Game Day probably competes with Madden kind of alright. This game is not Blitz. It's not Blitz at all. But it's really interesting that they did it. Funny to me that Mike Allstott is on the cover of the first NFL Xtreme game and the second Blitz game, or the second home console Blitz game. But yeah, really interesting. Definitely wanted to grab this for $2 because I'm super into those arcade sports titles. Speaking of arcade sports titles, lastly for the PS1 we have Cool Borders 2001, and really, I know a lot of people love Cool Borders. I have not really ever gotten into it. It's not really my thing. I've stayed with the SSX games, which seem to be the most, the actual good games. Really, when I look them up online, they're, Cool Borders, they were popular with kids, especially because this was the whole, like, big, huge period for snowboarding and skateboarding games. But they never got very good reviews, and a lot of people don't think they're actually very good games. So this is actually one that came out on PS2 and PS1. This is the last game in the series. I think it's even came out, this must have come out after Rippin' Riders, which is a game that came out on the Dreamcast, but wasn't allowed to use the Cool Borders name. So I just grabbed this because it was another, cheap PS1 game, and I was like, it's complete, it's in good shape. Cool Borders, this is going to be the game I play for Cool Borders, And that's it for PS1 games. Let's move on to PS2 games. This is another game, I like the Scooby-Doo games. I like Scooby-Doo. I like Scooby-Doo a lot. I always liked it as a kid. I will get into Classic Creep Capers on the N64 way, way, way down the line because it's a really late game. But there's 3 of these. There's one called First Frights, but I don't count that in with these games because there's actually 3 games that came out really close together that are all the same kind of game. There's this one. I think Night of 100 Frights is the most common one probably, and the one that you've probably seen. I think that was the first one. And then there's this game, Mystery Mayhem, and there's also one called Scooby-Doo Unmasked. And I think they're all pretty much the same game based on different Scooby-Doo episodes because there's a very large well to draw from with this series. So, I think it's cool. It might be a long, long time before I play it, but I like the Scooby-Doo stuff. And then a couple of games I grabbed the other day. Actually, I didn't think I was going to even take advantage of my store's Black Friday sale, but I ended up doing so because I saw two games come in that I'd never seen before, and a complete version of a game that I'd wanted for a long time. So first of all, this game is EverBlue 2. And I'd never seen this game before. It's not even that expensive. It's like $15 on Amazon when I looked it up. But I'm really excited to eventually try the Endless Ocean games on the Wii. Because they look relaxing, they look really cool, I really like the interacting with animals and stuff. Of course, I haven't yet. I have both of them and haven't done that yet because I'm lazy and have a huge backlog. But I saw this game, EverBlue 2. First of all, I found out EverBlue 1 didn't come out in the United States, so this is the first one we got. And probably they had kind of marched it out to die at the time. It was published by Capcom, but not really establishing that EverBlue was a series that people had played the first game of. They probably should have changed the name of it, honestly. So that people would know that, not think that, oh, I have to play the first game. How do I play the first game? Well, it didn't come out here. Alright, I guess I won't play it. But after finding out, I had a suspicion. I was like, who made Endless Ocean, though? Because it looks so similar, you know. There's more of a story, I think, but you interact, you go underwater, you interact with the fish and stuff. And this company, Arika, is on the Endless Ocean. They made the Endless Ocean game, so this is basically all they do. So now I have 3 basically Endless Ocean games. I haven't played any of them yet. But I've never seen this game, and it looks really cool. It's published by Capcom, so I think they had faith in them. They just really fucked up the release. Next game, the moment I saw this, another game I'd never seen before in my entire life. And as soon as I laid eyes on it, I knew I had to have it. It's called Swashbucklers, Blue vs. Gray. It's published by Atari, so I didn't have a whole lot of faith in the quality of it. It's not supposed to be god-awful, but it's not supposed to be great either. It also came out in 2007, so that's probably had a big factor in why it didn't sell well as the fact that it is kind of a weird mashup of 2 things that I fucking love, which is history, this case being Civil War. So it's basically Civil War era pirates with, like, you know, big Ironside ships and everything like that. I imagine it's probably not that easy for people to just jump right into that. But there's a whole lot of weird shit going on. There's boxing matches in bars, there's sailing, there's RPG elements, there's a whole lot of shit going on. I don't even really care about what kind of game it is. I saw fucking Civil War and pirates, and I was like, give me that game right now. And it's super cheap too. It's less than $10, and I'd never seen this game before. So if you see Civil War and pirates and you go, give me that game right now, you can go order for like $10 at the absolute most. Lastly, 2 games for the PS2, 2 more games for the PS2. Cold Fear, which I'd really wanted for a long time. It came out around the same time, I think, as Resident Evil 4, and is a very similar type of game. So I think you probably tried to piggyback on that a little bit. It also looks a lot like a game on the Dreamcast that you may have seen before called Carrier. It's a survival horror game. I think this is more of an action game, which would be really good to me because, you know, try and build on the Resident Evil 4 thing. But it's not very common, so it goes for about $15 to $20. It's also on Xbox. Xbox One will, of course, be cheaper. But I really wanted to get that for a long time. I finally pulled the trigger because this was the game I was forking my money over for, which is X-Files Resist or Serve. Now, I had not seen... We actually have seen 2 copies of this game myself over the past couple weeks. But I'd never seen the PlayStation 2 X-Files game. I'd only ever seen the PS1 game, which I haven't played. But this is probably a lot better just as a console game than the PS1 game, which is a point-and-click game with a lot of FMV. Based on the fact that it is based on a real TV show and has the real actors in it, the FMV might not be so bad. But the point-and-click thing, I haven't heard the greatest things about. I haven't heard the greatest things about this either, but it's a little bit more action-oriented. And I'm really glad I got this. I got this one after it came in because it had a manual with it, the other one didn't. So I was like, you know what, I really want to get this game complete and everything. Got the X-Files. Awesome. So, next, we got a lot of PS3. That was actually the big bulk of it. I'm going to do a bunch of these games all at once because they are all things I bought for the same reason. Because although I have not yet played anything with my PS Move, all the games for it are really cheap right now, and they might not be forever. Some of the more popular ones that sold a lot better might be like Sports Champions 2, Sports Champions 1, of course, but Sports Champions... actually, I was thinking Sports Champions 2 might go up in value because there weren't a whole lot of them sold. I never see it. But Medieval Moves, Sorcery, and I think Racquet Sports. I've seen a couple copies of this. But these are all the PS Move games. So going down it, I got Sorcery, which is like a spellcasting game. Medieval Moves, which is kind of based on Medieval. But it's more like a mini games. It's a little bit of an action adventure too, I think. Yeah, it's a adventure game. We have the Shoot, which is sort of another one of the rail shooter games. It's based on the movies, kind of like Attack of the Movies. Might be better. Not sure, because Attack of the Movies is kind of shovelware. Sports Champions 2, sequel to Sports Champions 1, super successful game. PlayStation Move Heroes, which is a really interesting sort of like a PS All-Stars adventure game with all the mascots and stuff. The ones that they actually do have that are their own, not borrowed from other companies. Kung Fu Rider, which is probably the most interesting one to me. It's a batshit crazy, like, office chair racing, like, downhill jam sort of Tony Hawk game. Batshit crazy shit. And Racquet Sports, which I described today. It's a Ubisoft one. Don't have a whole lot of faith in it necessarily compared to like Sports Champions, but you know, you get tennis, ping pong, stuff like that. And it's, like I said, all these games right now, all these games right here, dirt cheap right now. If you have PS Move, I'm kind of going all in on it, even though I might not necessarily ever play them, or I might not play them anytime soon. But yeah, all those PS Move games, I'm going to be glad to have them eventually. I can't believe it took me this long to buy this game, but this is the Journey Collection. It has 2 games. I'm not super interested in the Flow inclusion on here, but Flower and Journey are both, seems like, my kind of games. I'm super into the idea of arguing the games are art and, you know, finding out the games that really highlight that and playing them and knowing that I have that ammo in my back pocket if I need to get into that argument with somebody. And so Journey and Flower are 2 big ones that I really wanted to get. So I finally have that. I'm really glad. Infamous 2, again, this game and the first one are both dirt cheap right now, and they are, you know, first-party titles that are really good. I think the reason that the first one especially is going to be cheap for a long time is because of that breach that happened a couple years ago, and Infamous is one of the games that they gave out for free as an apology. But that might not last forever. It might last forever sort of in the fact that, like, Devil May Cry sold a bunch of copies, and it's still not, you know, really picking up its value a lot. Infamous might be on the same level, but you can't deny that the Infamous games are really, really good. I'm really, you know, they're a bit too open for me to get really obsessed with, but they're good to have. Prototype 2, I picked up Prototype 1 when it went down to like $5 a couple months ago, and now I have Prototype 2, and I have not played Prototype, and I probably won't play this one for a while, but it's a little bit, it looks creative, it looks, you know, it was successful enough to get a sequel and a 2-pack on the PS4, so, you know, got it real cheap, so definitely going to pick it up. This game I had actually wanted for a long time, Jurassic the Hunted, on whatever system I could get it for. It's kind of a trash game, you know. I was just really interested in it because they tried to make an adventure shooter out of like dinosaurs and everything. And I finally saw this game drop in price, and I was like, yeah, definitely give it to me. It's under $10 apparently, so. And for PS3, I really thought that if I ever got it, it was going to be on Wii. But no, I got it on the PS3, which is really cool. Little League World Series 2010. When it comes to sports games, especially, you know, games like this might look like shovelware, but, I mean, when you have a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, how can this game really take itself seriously? That would be really bad. But it's got mini-games, you know, it's not about the rosters, obviously. I don't know who the fuck any of these kids are. Sometime down the road, we might be like, hey, that kid was in the Little League World Series. That's something we do nowadays with baseball players, but, you know, there's a lot of, it's a kind of a arcadey over-the-top game, and, you know, again, really cheap. So I got this one, too. I have the double pack for the DS, but the DS sort of forces the motion touch controls in there, so I'd really like to see how this does it without any of those controls in it. Max Payne 3, again, I grabbed it because it was cheap. I have the first 2 Max Payne games. Remedy didn't make this one, I'm pretty sure. Somebody else did. So I'm actually really excited to see how Max Payne, I know this game, I've heard, got super weird, especially by comparison to the first 2 games. But I'm interested to see how Rockstar and, I guess, I don't know if Euphoria is the name of an engine or anything like that, but I'd actually really prefer a sort of like almost Grand Theft Auto style of Max Payne just to see the contrast, because with Max Payne, I've always heard people say, oh, the narrative is so good, the storyline is so good, the writing is so good. And Remedy, I love them for their games, they make great gameplay innovations and everything like that, but their writing is cliche and trash, and I don't I don't buy into that. The real true pinnacle of storytelling in games is, to me, is The Last of Us. It's not Remedy's games, not Alan Wake either. I haven't played Quantum Break, obviously, because Xbox One exclusive. But for that reason, I'm actually really interested to see what Max Payne 3 does with it. If it goes cliche and does it the same way that I do appreciate the Max Payne games, if it manages to keep that going, maybe in a different sort of way, like Miami Vice, I think, is sort of the style of it. Next for PS3, a stupid game that I wanted for a long time just because of the way I find it really interesting. MLB Front Office Manager. You know, I probably might not ever play this, especially not for a long time, but I just like that these games got made at some point. So MLB Front Office Manager, where you get to be fucking Billy Bean from Moneyball. GoldenEye 007 Reloaded. I love GoldenEye so much. I can't believe I didn't already have this. I did have the first version of the remake at one point on the Wii, but I don't have that right now. So I got the, PS3 version. Eventually, I found it at a thrift store. So good stuff. They did a great job with it from what I've heard. From what I remember on the Wii, I didn't really play the whole thing, but I'm really glad I have it. It's GoldenEye. I love GoldenEye. You gotta try the remake of it. White Knight Chronicles 2. This is admittedly not my kind of game, but it is made by Level 5, who I really, really respect, mostly for their work on the Professor Layton games. I did try to play Dark Cloud, the first one. I didn't really care for it. So if this becomes more like that, then I might not want it. But the reason I had to get White Knight Chronicles 2 is because it actually has both of the White Knight Chronicles games on the disc. It has the first one included, and it has the second one. And I think the second one is supposed to be an improvement from what I've heard. I don't really know. I don't know how this is going to go if I ever get around to playing it. But I do appreciate Level 5 and what they do. I like them as a developer, so I wanted to get this game eventually. And then finally for PS3, this is going to be a long video, I'm surprised. But Heroes Over Europe, I was surprised at how cheap this game got, because I had seen it around $15 for a long time, and then I saw it one day in GameStop for $3. So I really like, World War II history, stuff like that. And I really like Heroes Over the Pacific, or Heroes of the Pacific, whatever it was on the PS2. Even better sometimes than Secret Weapons Over Normandy from the little bit that I played of it. It had a really good, they used the sort of like the propaganda artwork and stuff like that. The Rosie the Riveter, fuck me. Rosie the Riveter and stuff like that. The way they use it is really cool. And it's a pretty good game, so I'm interested in seeing how Heroes Over Europe does, especially because it's weird when I see games, World War II games, that start with the Pacific theater and then move to Europe, as opposed to doing the opposite. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what game I'm thinking of that did the same thing, and I cannot remember for the life of me, but I know that that's a thing that's happened. Oh, Battle Stations. Battle Stations... No, that might not be it. Anyway... Because I know there's Battle Stations Midway, and I think there's Battle Stations Pacific. So then, last, we have some PS4 games. I'm actually going to grab 3 of these out of here, because they all go together in a way. I grabbed these 3 off of Amazon a couple weeks ago, because I saw Siberia 3. I have not played the first 2 Siberias, but I really like them. I like those type of adventure games. And I really like that Siberia is still kind of going. But apparently they botched the PS4 launch of it at this point because it's very glitchy and buggy, which is something that will get fixed, and or is something you can play through if you play it down the line and you can't actually get it patched. So I grabbed it. It was like $7, and it was an add-on item. So I was like, god damn it. And I have to get something so I know that I can get this game. And I went looking, and I found 2 other cheap games that brought me up to the $25. And I grabbed these 2 as well. I'll say Guilty Gear X3rd Revelator, however the fuck you're supposed to say this game. I like the Guilty Gear games. I respect Axis and Art System Works for the fighting games that they make. And Guilty Gear has a bunch of heavy metal references in it, so I might not be good at it. I might not play it very much, but it is a heavy metal game, man, and I want it. So I finally got my hands on that. So I got Siberia 3, I got Guilty Gear X3rd, and then I also finally pulled the trigger on 2K15, WWE 2K15. This is probably not a good jump to the next gen as far as series goes. NHL 15 did the same thing. Realistically, I could have gotten the PS3 version of this, which might have been a little bit better, but I didn't actually care about features or anything that were in 2K15 on PS3. The only thing I cared about with getting this eventually was the 2K showcase, because that's why I keep buying all these wrestling games, is because I want to see the showcases. This showcase actually has two really cool ones. There's more on DLC, which I might not ever get, but John Cena versus CM Punk, which is a rivalry that I completely missed while I was not watching wrestling, so that's one thing that I would actually really like to play in the game so that I know what to go watch, besides the Money in the Bank match, which is an incredible fucking match, by the way. And also Triple H and Shawn Michaels, when Shawn Michaels came back in 2002, starting with their Street Fight at SummerSlam and then kind of going on for a little while after that, including Elimination Chamber, which would be really cool to play in a game. That Elimination Chamber match in 2002, that Shawn Michaels shocked everybody and won the World Heavyweight Championship in the first Elimination Chamber match, and nobody thought that he was there to win that. Really, really cool shit that you get to do in that game, even if the game itself is not up to snuff. Next is Cat Quest. It's an RPG, and it has a bunch of fucking cat puns in it, and it was $20, so I pre-ordered it on Amazon, and I got it for $16. And that is why I bought this game, because it looks fucking adorable, has a bunch of cat puns in it. For example, I can see in the... Oh, there weren't any in the screenshots on the back. This is the only game that I got during the Pro Day sale at GameStop. And I got it for $20, brand new, which is a really good price for this. And I basically wanted to have something else to throw in the mix. I really want to start playing this game soon. I haven't done it yet. But I want to play this game because it's supposed to be so good. Got all these comparisons to Breath of the Wild because they came out at the same time. That might not necessarily be true. But I have not seen people sour on this game or say that it's not as good as people give it credit for. Also, when you look this game up on Amazon, I do this thing on Amazon, which is a really nerdy thing to do, but I really, really want reviews to be representative of the games on Amazon, especially because Amazon is one of the biggest sites that people buy games off of. Biggest retailers that people buy games off of anyway. So when I see a bunch of one-star reviews for big games that actually don't deserve them, and I know that, I always go through and I say, this review's not helpful, this is all bullshit. You know, you reviewed a defective copy of the game, which is not representative of the game. But when I went and looked on Horizon Zero Dawn's reviews, a bunch of the one-star reviews were basically, why do you have to play as a woman, this is SJW bullshit, so on and so forth. And I'm like, man, that's either trolling or people are really pissed off that this main character's woman, the main character's female, but that just makes me want to play it more because I love to fucking piss those people off, man. If you call a game feminist SJW bullshit and it is a AAA game, I'm gonna call you out and I'm gonna go play that fucking game, man. You cannot deter me from playing a game by calling it feminist SJW bullshit. That's the fact right there. And I was like, man, now I want to play this game really bad. So that's why I went out and bought it when it was $20. Two things, actually. These go together as well. We're getting to the end of it. Rhyme and Ukulele. I waited, man. I gave them time. And I think, so Rhyme finally came out, I think. And Ukulele is coming out this month. But I waited so long that the Switch tax was going to be too much for these two games for me to justify. And I'm a little disappointed about the Ukulele thing, that I bought it like a week before they announced it. They announced it the other day. I bought this like a week before that. But I waited so long on these. I wanted to play both of these games really, really bad. And I couldn't wait for the Switch versions anymore because especially like Rhyme, when I pre-ordered Rhyme, it was one of the only Switch games I had coming. And I was like, man, I have to get Rhyme on the Switch. Now it's like twice as much on the Switch than it is anywhere else. I got it for like $14, and it's still $40 brand new on the Switch. I can't pay that much in Switch tax. Sorry, I love the Switch, but I can't do it. These last two are actually kind of weird games. I always make a big deal about Suda 5-1 and how it makes me feel weird. But I got this game. This was really, really cheap on Amazon Warehouse deals, about half price of what it was going for at the time. But I got the silver case, which was his first game. Originally released on the PS1. It's like a murder mystery game. It doesn't do all his weird shit, as far as I know. Not the sort of stuff that makes me feel uncomfortable about his games, like, you know, Lollipop Chainsaw with the fucking cheerleader. Scantily clad cheerleader. Definitely trying to turn people on. But Silver Case, cool looking murder mystery game on the PS1. And they remade it for the PS4. It looks really interesting. It has a cool art style. And I got it for a really good price because I just happened to notice an Amazon Warehouse deal. So I jumped on that. And then finally, I'm a little bit mad at myself because I wanted to pull the trigger on this, even though it didn't have the outer sleeve, which is half the cover art. But this is Yakuza Kiwami in the steelbook and everything. And I have heard so many good things about the Yakuza series in my life, and I've never played a single one of them. And it is I found out it was like a beat 'em up, basically. You know, a big open world brawler. And I'm like, that's for me. And it's got a really good story. It's got a lot of action in it, really good stuff. So this is the sort of discounted, because it's a remake of the first game. It's not a full price game that'll never drop in price. It was $30 when it came out, and I think it's down to like $25, brand new on Amazon. I could have just bought that, but I paid like $18 for it because it was right there in front of me. And I'm like, I really gotta play this Yakuza game. I gotta see what it's all about. And so I did, and I'd like to find the sleeve for it, the outer sleeve for it, but whatever. I'm really glad I finally got that. I finally got Horizon Zero Dawn. A lot of games I got for the PS4 this month are things I wanted for a long time and picked them up eventually. And that's it. That was a long fucking video, but yeah, I got mostly PS3. I got a lot of games this month, and I thank you for watching. I will see y'all next month to talk about post-Christmas stuff. I already know one thing that's in there, which is really good. And that's it. Keep on gaming. Keep reading articles, videos, watching me, and I appreciate it. Goodbye. Happy holidays.